Right, so we're diving right into it today. And this one is a doozy. Did Trump actually break the law trying to overturn the 2020 election? And, the 2024 right around the corner, this isn't just ancient history. This is a really big deal right now. We've got the court filing from special counsel Jack Smith. And let me tell you, they are not holding back.
Yeah, and one of the really key things to remember here is the Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity. That's what's got prosecutors laser focused on whether or not Trump was acting as, like a private citizen, not in his official capacity when he was, as they allege, trying to overturn the election.
If he wasn't acting as president, that kind of throws a wrench into any argument that he was above the law, huh?
You got it. The Supreme Court, they made it crystal clear. Presidents, yeah, they have immunity, but only for stuff they do as part of their job. The second they're acting out of personal interest, poof, that protection vanishes. And this whole case, it all comes down to that line in the sand.
And the prosecution, well, they're not mincing words, are they? They come right out and say, Trump resorted to crimes. That's got to be significant, using language that strong.
Oh, absolutely. You don't see that kind of language every day in these filings. It tells me they've got a lot of confidence in their case, like they really believe they can prove these allegations.
It's almost like they're saying, look, we're not here to mess around. We're saying crimes were committed. This isn't some theoretical debate anymore. We're talking about the possibility of charging a former president, one who's running for re-election, by the way, with actual crimes.
Yeah, this is incredibly serious. If he's found guilty, it would be totally unprecedented. Legally, politically, you name it, uncharted territory.
Okay, so let's get down into the weeds a bit here. The filing uses this phrase, private criminal effort, to describe what Trump did. So in this context, what does that actually mean?
Well, private criminal effort, to me, that implies this wasn't just like a spur-of-the-moment thing. This was premeditated, planned out in advance. They're saying it wasn't just a reaction to the election results, but a deliberate scheme to stay in power no matter what.
And then there's that really unsettling detail about Trump's reaction when Pence was rushed to safety during January 6th, when the Capitol was attacked. The filing says Trump was told Pence was in danger, and he just said, so what?
Yeah, that's a really chilling detail, especially when you consider how important Pence was to the whole election certification process, the very process Trump was trying to overturn.
So he was allegedly pressuring Pence to overturn the election. And then on top of that, he didn't seem to care about Pence's safety during the riot.
That seems to be what they're implying. It really makes you question Trump's priorities, his state of mind. Did he want to stay in power so much that he didn't care about anyone's safety, even his own vice president? It's starting to look like a pattern of behavior.
And we're not even scratching the surface here. The filing also says Trump was ready to declare victory no matter what the actual vote count was. Like he had that victory speech ready to go before a single vote was even cast.
Yeah, that's right. It seems like they're saying he had zero respect for how democracy is supposed to work. Like he was determined to stay in power whether the people wanted him there or not.
And it gets even wilder. The filing claims he knew for a fact that his claims about election fraud were false. They even say he called them, get this, crazy at one point.
Whoa, okay, that's huge. Because then it becomes about intent. If he knew the claims were false and kept pushing them anyway, that just adds fuel to the fire. It makes those allegations way more serious.
Because knowingly spreading lies just to hold on to power. I mean, that's not just questioning election results anymore. That's something else entirely.
Right, exactly. At that point, it's not a misunderstanding or a difference of opinion. That's where this case could really cross the line into criminal territory.
So they're saying he had this plan to stay in power, but how are they actually trying to make it happen?
Well, the filing talks about this effort to, manipulate the election results, but at the state level, like a really targeted, almost surgical approach. For example, there's this incident in Detroit where allegedly a Trump campaign worker was trying to throw out ballots for Biden.
So it wasn't enough to win votes. They had to try and erase the ones that went against them.
Yes.
That's, wow, talk about a contrast with actually campaigning and trying to persuade voters.
Yeah, it's a completely different playbook.
So a coordinated effort across multiple states then. And of course, we can't forget about January 6th. The filing links the chaos of that day directly to this bigger scheme to overturn the election.
You got it. They're saying it was a calculated attempt to take advantage of a really volatile situation for political gain. Remember when Trump pressured those state officials to fine him enough votes?
Oh, yeah. It was all over the news. Fine me 11,780 votes. Those were his exact words, right?
Bingo. And now those words, they take on a whole new meaning with these allegations, don't they?
It's like all the pieces of the puzzle we thought we knew are suddenly coming into focus,
Yeah.
and the bigger picture is way more complicated and disturbing.
That's a great way to put it. And the thing is, this isn't just about what Trump himself did. It's about whether the people around him, the ones who might have helped him, could be in legal trouble too.
And that's where things get really interesting, legally speaking. It's not just about Trump anymore. It's about the possibility that his inner circle could be in the crosshairs too.
Absolutely. This thing has the potential to pull in a whole lot more people. Conspiracy, obstruction of justice, abuse of power, and at the highest levels of government. The stakes couldn't be any higher, especially for anyone who is directly involved.
Yeah, it's like they're saying he just completely disregarded the entire democratic process.
Yeah.
That he was dead set on staying in power no matter what the people actually wanted.
And it gets even more, I don't know, unbelievable. The filing says, it claims that Trump knew, like actually knew, that all his talk about election fraud was bogus. It even says he called it crazy. Can you believe that?
Wow, see, that's a game changer. That's where we get into the whole issue of intent. If he knew it was all made up and he kept saying it anyway, I mean, that's a whole other level. Right, because if you're spreading lies like that on purpose just to try and stay in power, I mean, that's not just, questioning the election results. That's a whole different ballgame.
Absolutely. It goes way beyond just disagreeing with the outcome or misinterpreting something. Now you're talking about something that could actually be criminal.
Okay, so let's say he did have this plan to stay in office. How are they actually going to pull it off?
Well, the filing goes into some detail about how they were allegedly trying to, manipulate the vote counts, but at the state level, like a very targeted kind of thing. Like one example they give is this whole incident in Detroit where they're saying a Trump campaign worker was trying to invalidate ballots, specifically the ones for Biden.
So instead of just, trying to win more votes, they were trying to get rid of the ones that went for the other guy. It's a pretty far cry from actual campaigning, trying to convince voters and all that.
Yeah, it's a totally different strategy, that's for sure. And they're saying this wasn't just a one-off thing either. The filing suggests that they were using similar tactics in other states, too, other battleground states.
So a coordinated effort across
Yeah.
multiple states. Wow. And then, of course, there's January 6th. The filing makes a direct connection between all the mayhem that day and this bigger plot to overturn the election.
Exactly. They're basically saying that they were trying to use a really chaotic situation to their advantage. Like, remember when Trump was pressuring those state officials to find him more votes?
Oh, yeah. Find me 11,780 votes, right? That's what he said.
Yep. Those are his exact words. And it's kind of chilling when you think about it in light of all these allegations, right?
Yeah, it's like all the pieces of the puzzle we thought we had figured out are suddenly making a lot more sense. But the picture they're painting is way more disturbing than we thought.
That's a good way to put it. And here's the thing. It's not just Trump who might be in trouble here. Anyone who helped him, anyone who was in on it, they could be facing legal consequences too.
Oh, now that's interesting from a legal standpoint anyway. So we're not just talking about Trump anymore, but potentially his whole inner circle too.
Exactly. This whole thing could end up dragging in a lot of people. We're talking conspiracy, obstruction of justice, abuse of power, and we're talking about the highest levels of government. The stakes are incredibly high, especially for anyone who was directly involved in this stuff.
So we've laid out a lot of pretty serious accusations here. But let's get back to the heart of it. Did Trump's actions actually meet the definition of crimes?
That's the million-dollar question, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's up to a jury to decide that. But I gotta say, this filing, this is a serious case they're building. They're saying this was a calculated, deliberate attempt to undermine, the very core of our democracy. The language they use, the evidence they've gathered, the sheer scale of this alleged conspiracy, it all adds up to a huge legal challenge for Trump to overcome.
It's important to remember, this isn't about one phone call or something. They're not taking one comment out of context. This filing lays out what they're saying is a whole pattern to behavior, a whole bunch of actions. They're all pointing to one goal, overturning the election.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just one isolated thing. It's the combination of all these alleged actions, the way they all connect, that makes this case so significant. The prosecutors are painting a picture of a coordinated effort to basically stop the peaceful transfer of power. And they've got a ton of evidence to back it up.
It's really striking how much detail they have in this filing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It feels like they've been working on this for a long time, maybe even years.
This is clearly the culmination of a long, complicated investigation. We're talking about one of the most chaotic periods in recent American history, and this was a deep dive into all of it. And the other thing is, we've only heard one side of the story, right? Trump and his lawyers, they haven't given us their side yet, not completely.
And they've been pretty vocal so far, haven't they? Accusing the prosecution of playing politics, calling it a witch hunt, a hit job. They're saying it's all designed to derail Trump's campaign.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how they defend against all this. They'll probably argue that Trump really did believe the election was stolen, maybe that he was protected by the First Amendment, that he was just following his lawyer's advice, that kind of thing. It's going to be a legal battle like we've never seen before, that's for sure.
And we have to remember, this is about way more than just what happens in court. This case, it gets at the very heart of how our democracy works, and what happens next could have a huge impact on American politics going forward.
Absolutely. Just imagine it. A former president facing possible criminal charges, running for office again. How's that going to affect the 2024 election? Is it going to make the country even more divided? And what does this whole situation say about, I don't know, about how strong our democracy really is?
Those are some big questions, and there aren't any easy answers.
No, not at all.
We're going to be wrestling with these questions for a long time, I think, even after this trial is over. We just took a deep dive into a really complex and constantly changing story, and as you can see, it's not even close to being over.
And not even close. There are going to be surprises along the way, that's for sure. But one thing's for certain, the whole world is watching this case unfold.
Yeah.
Everyone's holding their breath to see what the verdict will be, because it could completely change American politics as we know it.
That's for sure. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll be back soon to break down more of the biggest stories out there, the ones that matter, the ones that keep you informed and in the know. Until then, stay curious.